The year is 2019 and musicians Dylan, Brady, and Laura Les have just recorded the music video that was going to change their lives forever. Accompanied by a big car, some big trucks, and a then unknown big tree, the duo danced around in an empty parking lot to their single Money Machine, a deep-fried Skrillex-inspired banger that's both an assault to all 5 of your senses and a catchy earworm. For many at the time, it was unlike anything they had ever heard. Were people supposed to take this seriously? Were Dylan and Laura taking themselves seriously? Even today, for first-time listeners, these questions probably still come up, but 19 million views, a Billboard 100 album, a major record label deal, and an entire genre later, it's clear that 100 Gecs is a trendsetter. And whether you like it or not, their ability to translate terminally online culture into music that resonates with fans around the world is remarkable. Dylan and Laura are constantly walking a tightrope with their music between cringe and cool, and in looking at the hundreds of copycats that cropped up over the years, it's harder than it seems to stick the landing. So what makes 100 Gecs different? But before we get into it, if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button to stick around. Even though they exploded in 2019, Laura Les and Dylan Brady had been taking their group seriously since 2016 with the release of their self-titled EP. At just 13 minutes and 5 songs, it didn't create a splash quite as big as its follow-up, but if anything, it established a baseline for the 100 Gecs sound, heavy auto-tune and big synths that didn't take itself too seriously. And while the next few years were relatively quiet on releases, Dylan and Laura were working on their debut, sending Logic stems over email back and forth to put tracks together. And when they finally previewed some demos at a Minecraft festival in 2019, the jump in quality was clear. Even though their EP had moments, in my opinion, this was the first time 100 Gecs really found their sound, with the ridiculous voice samples, glitchy drums, and catchy hooks that they're known for. With these Minecraft festivals and their tour opening for hip-hop boy band Brockhampton, 100 Gecs spread like wildfire. And with their rise came the overall rise of hyperpop, a catch-all amalgamation of a bunch of smaller genres that had been bubbling in the underground that basically just serves as a blanket term for loud music that boomers think is annoying. And while 100 Gecs isn't the first act to blow up over the internet and find a cult fanbase, the overwhelming support from every corner of the industry was remarkable in the time between their first and second album. Remixes from acts like Charli XCX and Cara Cara Bonito fit the niche perfectly, but looking back on them, their collaborations with giants like Fall Out Boy and Linkin Park are insane. It's also not the first time the industry has adopted so-called weird music and commercialized it to a mass market, but the thing about 100 Gecs is that they really are weird. They feel like something that should be the internet's best kept secret, which is why the rise of hyperpop and the mainstream appeal of Dylan and Laura's music is as crazy as it is. While many would try to strike while the iron is hot with what might have been a flash in the pan success, Dylan and Laura instead waited 4 years to release their 1000 Gecs follow-up, aptly titled 10,000 Gecs. By the time it released, the hyperpop trend had all but died, and while they could have absolutely released another set of 10 tracks that felt like a sequel to their debut, for the most part, Dylan and Laura pulled from entirely different influences. The focus on auto-tune and electronic sounds shifted to a more poppy sound, but also rock, but also rap, but also like Perry grip kids music. And while it's clearly a departure from the sound that launched them into the stratosphere, 10,000 Gecs proved that Dylan and Laura were more than a novelty. Almost every song on here sounds completely different than the last, and for a group that takes this many risks on a major label debut 4 years after their breakout single, it's a miracle it worked as well as it did. And while it might not have been what earlier fans had hoped for, Dylan and Laura's ability to create trends and completely abandon them was the key to their success. And while it might be a catch-all term, 100 Gecs is single-handedly expanding hyperpop to places nobody could have expected, and their fans' embrace of their weird ideas, whether it be opening for My Chemical Romance on one of their first shows in a decade, or playing a concert in a cave or a frog on the floor, created one of the most unique relationships between an artist and a fan base I've ever seen. So what do you think? Is hyperpop played out, or do you think 100 Gecs has another trick up their sleeve? Let me know down in the comments, and thanks so much for watching. Hit the like button if you liked the video and consider subscribing, it really helps me out. I'll see you in the next one.